All right. So, Hunter, there's obviously been a lot of stages, about podcasts, talking about your journey, your success, and things like that. Like, we kind of touched on it already with your story with Turner and the self-doubt and working through that. I think that would be really good use of our time today because, man, there's a lot of people that go through that. They might see someone like you, or they might see someone like me, or whoever it might be, being like, man, like, or they might see another roofing company in their market or the industry or on social media, like, oh man, why does it always seem to come easy to that guy? Like, he's got it all figured out. Like, why do I have to go through these challenges, or why can't I figure this out? And, when you get into those rooms and communities, you realize like everyone goes through the same stuff, and not just the business challenges, but like I said, the self-doubt, the challenges with maybe their marital relationship because they're working too much, feelings of guilt because you're not spending enough time with your kids, letting your health and fitness go because you're too busy or you're too stressed, all those sorts of things. We all go through that, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. How did you get through that period? So it was about a 1.5 year period, huh?
Yeah. It really started, honestly, like end of 2021-ish, because I could feel the tension mounting with that company that had acquired Cornerstone. They had made me an offer to take over as CEO of that entire company. And me and the current CEO, didn't really see eye to eye on some things. Value-wise, I didn't feel good about it. I was worried about some things and taking on the liability. And so I turned that down, and it just started going downhill from there, man, our relationship. And so I felt, the tension building. And then that lawsuit dropped in the beginning of 2022. And not just the lawsuit, that there's a lawsuit and all this money at stake that I worked so hard for, but the things that they said about me. And some of them, like, it really, in a way, was a blessing because some of the things they said about me were so easy to disprove. Like, someone like you could go in there and be like, okay, I'm looking at these guys and I'm looking at Hunter, and I'm going to go do the research on some of the things that they've said. And you could find it publicly that it was not true. So, those things were good. Some of the other stuff that you couldn't just go publicly prove, we had to go through the process and hire the attorneys and send stuff to the judge. And so it was, once we got into it, about 2 months into it, it was solid because the judge was starting to say things to them like, hey, this doesn't line up. You're seeing X, Y, Z, and the facts, the proof, the documents, the emails, they don't say that. So I started feeling better about that. But while all that's happening, I'm having all these, I'll say, friends. If you're not watching this live, I'm giving little quotations. Friends who I thought were my friends at the time, turning their back on me, talking crap, posting on Facebook, blocking my phone number when I'm reaching out to them. Like, dude, it was intense. That was way worse than the actual lawsuit because all these people that I thought were my friends were really just waiting for my downfall. And instead of having the, decency to reach out and say, hey, Hunter, I at least want to hear your side. No, they didn't do that. I remember guys like you and Jericho and other people that were at least like, hey man, what's going on with this? You go talk about it, you're good. And that's fine. If I had done something wrong, I'd have been completely fine with you guys shutting me off. That's fine. But for people to turn their back on me, people that it's easy for anyone to say this, but I'm a guy that wants to give more value than I take. And I think you speak to that. And like, for people that I felt like I was way ahead on the scorecard of giving to them, for them to just cut me off and not even ask about the situation, man, it was really hurtful. And not to be like a little baby about it, but it was, man. Like, I'm just a people person. I care about people, and it hurt. And so I dealt with that for, the first 8 months or so of 2022 until we finished the suit. And then we came out of the suit smelling like roses. Like I said, we got to keep the cash, keep millions in shares, and got the company back. And so that was kind of like my screw you guys. That's what it felt like. When I came out of it, I was like, to all you people who doubted me, like, you could have done some simple research to see who was in the right. Screw you guys. Thank you for doing me a favor and really ridding yourself of me so that I can focus on the people who actually care about me. But then I moved straight from that season, which was the worst season of my life, without a doubt, to the second worst season of my life, which was losing $1 million on RoofCon. We go into that. Things are great. We're bringing in big speakers. All the things are happening. Hurricane hits. Ticket sales are not as good as we think. We still had, like, I think most people don't know this. We still grew by like 50%. We went from like 21 or 2,200 in 2021 to 3,400 in 2022. But just the money wasn't there for the stage we built out. I don't know if you went in that side of the show. It was built out like a concert, lights and just everything. And then obviously bringing Tebow and Maxwell and Nick Santosasso and all the people cost a lot. So lost all that money, and it was just, man, it was 2 rough seasons back to back. And that lasted, dude, until last year, September. Went to Africa for an event where I spoke at, did some like mission work. It was great. I think it was the 3rd night I was there on the trip. I woke up and I just couldn't sleep. It was like 3 a.m. Sorry, I can't sing. I can't play any instruments, but I enjoy writing. Now, I don't know chorus or bridge or any of that stuff. So I just walk outside in Africa at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and I just started writing this song, and it's called Need You Down. It's a faith-based song about God and just, needing him. And I write this song, and I wait till like 7 a.m. when the rest of the team, they start getting up. And Joey gets up, which is JP Wilson with Patriot. It's video guide. He was there to work for us. And he does like worship pastor stuff at his church. And so I was like, hey man, music, like help me frame this up, chorus and bridge and all the things. So he did. We spent a couple of days. Dylan Mullins was there. He helped us. And so the last day, the night we're going to leave, we decide to sing this song together, like actually record it. And we had a group of 4 Ugandans there. They had like a praise team, 1 boy, 3 girls. They came in and kind of sang in the background as the chorus. And dude, it was awesome. And we stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning doing the song together outside in this little venue thing. And at like 3 a.m., we're out there praying, huddled up all around. The Ugandans wanted to pray for the Americans first. And as they're praying, I had only seen mosquitoes one time while I was over there. And it was the night before. We had a restaurant. They were flying around, but they had candles on the table, so they weren't messing with us, but I could see them flying. That's the only other time I saw mosquitoes. Well, while the Ugandans were praying for us, dude, I had flip-flops on. Boom, 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 just pegging my feet. And I'm like stepping on my feet back and forth. I open my eyes. I see like 1 or 2 other people that had flip-flops on doing the same thing. So they finished, and I felt so bad, but I was like, hey guys, can we as Americans like just sit down and openly pray for you? Because I didn't want to keep standing up and have my eyes closed. I was trying to keep the mosquitoes off of me.
They probably thought you were dancing, right? Like your feet moving all around.
Yeah. Well, I come back and like 2 weeks later, start getting sick, man. And I didn't really think anything about it because it was 2 weeks. I had no clue that the incubation period for malaria was 2 weeks. I'm doing Fearless 44. If you don't know what that is, challenge we started in 2019. And I'm doing Fearless 44. I'm like a week, 2 weeks, couple weeks, something like that in at this point. And I'm feeling rough. And during my Facebook Live that you have to do during Fearless, Eric Mills, which is a Revolt member that has an orphanage in Uganda, sees me. He wasn't on the trip, but he saw me and he's like, hey man, have you got checked for malaria? Like you look rough, like you possibly have malaria. And I'm like, no, dude, I'm fine, whatever. Then he hits me up again and he's like, hey man, I had a buddy last year go, he got it, didn't take it serious. His doctor didn't take it serious. He ended up dying. And so now he's getting in my head because I'm like, oh, my kids, my wife, Revolt, like all the things. And then he hit Maggie up and was like, Maggie, you need to take him to the hospital. And so we ended up, I was laying in the shower, dude, just like shivered. It was unreal. Like I can't even explain it. Unlike anything else I've ever experienced before. Like you sweat so bad and feel like you're freezing. The entire bed would just be soaked. And the first time I wasn't throwing up or sitting on the pot or anything like that. And so I go in, they check me and they're like, yeah, probably not malaria. You know, my family doctor actually told me not to go to the hospital. This is a Wednesday, told me not to go until the next Monday. I go on a Wednesday. They say that had I waited till Friday, I would have died.
Wow.
Yeah. So we had a wild emotions just thinking how close to death you really could have been just by being stubborn, you know, because I'm just not a doctor guy. I've never been a doctor, done surgery. Like I don't like medication, any of that stuff. And people are like, you didn't take the vaccine for malaria. I'm like, well, for one, there's not a vaccine for malaria. There's like preventative pills that you can take. And no, I probably would not have taken the vaccine either.
Right.
But I go in, I do the thing, I come back out, think I'm good. They tell me 0.0 in my blood. I go to like a Need to Breathe concert. I'm jamming it up. Everything's good. And I start getting real sick again. Now, the whole time, the 2 weeks in between, I didn't have good energy, but like I wasn't sick. And I started getting sick again. And this time it's worse. And I'm like throwing up. I'm on the pot. It was just bad, dude. So we go back this time to the big hospital locally. And I just tell them like, I don't know how this is possible, but I have to have it again. And they're like, no, there's no way you have it again. Like, we checked your blood, but they checked me and I had it again, and I had E. coli. And so they were like pretty worried. The way they told me I had E. coli, they knew that I had something. When they came in, they were like, hey, Mr. Ballew, do you remember back in the day the breakout with Jack in the Box and E. coli? And I was like, yeah, when all the people died. And they're like, yeah, well, you've got that kind. So, and I don't just say this for the podcast. It was just funny during the time because I kept thinking about it. They said that me and JP, because JP got it too, had the worst kind of malaria, and then I had the worst kind of E. coli because there's two
Wow.
kinds. There was one night in the hospital, man, when it was like, I'm believing that God's protecting me and that I have the calling on my life and I'm good and I'm not going to die. But I just remember thinking, if I'm going to die, it's tonight.
Wow.
My stomach, I couldn't, like, Max is there with me. Like, my body was trying to throw up, but there was nothing left. And this is self-diagnosis, but I think it was so much that, like, my diaphragm swelled up or something and I couldn't breathe. Like, I was struggling to breathe. And yeah, it was insane, man. But so the second time I went, the first time they wouldn't give me extra treatment. Like, JP's people gave him 1.5 treatments on the first round and he got rid of it. So I asked them for that and they're like, no, it's toxic. Like, the stuff we give you is toxic. It's not good for you either. So we're not going to give you any more than we need to. Well, the second time I was a little more stern and I'm like, look, if I come back, I'm nice this time. Like, I was really nice to the people. Like, I'm like, I get stuff happens, but I want a second treatment. Like, keep me here until I go through the second treatment. I do not want to come back. If I have to come back, I'm going to be pissed. Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And just sitting in that room and thinking about it and knowing that you could not be here anymore is a crazy feeling. But even beyond that, two things that happened to me. One, I was there in October and I was there. I'm not a huge news guy, but I was there when Israel got attacked. And I turned on the TV to check that out. And a commercial came on for St. Jude's and all the kids. And I just remember thinking, like, I'm here and the chances of me being good are like very high. For a lot of these kids, it's not. And I just remember getting super emotional in my hospital bed, thinking about how grateful I am for life and that I get to do this life. And that all the stuff that has happened over at this point in the last 18 months that I mentioned, like, none of it matters, dude. None of it matters. Like, I got a lawsuit. Some people said some stuff about me that wasn't true. Some people believed it and turned their back on me. I lost money on an event. Like, none of that stuff matters. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to figure it out. Worst case scenario, if you're listening to this and you're in a bad financial spot, worst case scenario, you file bankruptcy and you take a little bit of hit to your ego. And the reality is, it's likely that unless you tell someone, nobody knows. Nobody even knows about it. There's plenty of billionaires that have filed bankruptcy, and I'm just talking about one of the money things. There was other factors to that, like I said, with friends and the lawsuit and allegations and that stuff. But dude, I just realized none of it matters. And I got out of there and they sent me to for some reason, it was like they sent me to the cancer treatment building to check my blood. And when I went in there, I'm in Greenville, South Carolina. That's the big city close by. So I went to their hospital and there's 1 million people in the upstate and 1.5 million in the upstate. I just looked at it today, actually. And I walked into that treatment center just expecting to go in there and get blood. Number one, you start looking at people with cancer and realizing how grateful you are. Number two, while I was in there, I saw 2 people that I knew from the upstate. One of them I knew had cancer. The other I didn't know had cancer. And just, dude, you talk about the level of gratitude for just having life and having another shot and knowing that God has a calling on my life and I got to fulfill it and I got to quit being a baby and stressing all the time and just give it to him and say, you know what? I'm going to let you handle this. I'm going to go out there and do the work and I'm going to trust that it's all going to be okay. Even if I fell real big and I got to take a hit to the ego, I'm going to figure it out and I'm just going to keep going. So that was big for me, man. It changed a lot. I started getting more involved with some of the companies that I'd kind of taken some time away from, including Cornerstone. I told you pre-show, we were talking, like, it was like I just didn't feel worthy. I felt so bad that, like, I'd sold the company. These people had to go through that. And then, here I come back in the picture and Hunter's back. And I didn't feel worthy to be there. And so just in the last few months, since all that, man, I've been getting more involved and showing these people that I love them and that we're still going after the mission that we set out to hit from the beginning. So it's been good, man. I'm rejuvenated, more involved, having fun, working with our personal companies, working with our partner companies we help out. It's been a lot of fun.